Well, I'm Dana. Welcome. You can call in we're in Canada, it's 709-589-4406. You can call from America or Canada. You can text. Let me see if we can get your text out there. So we got Israel, Iran, Russia, all connected now. United States, Britain, Germany, UK. We got a couple of stories. We're going to jump into those stories in probably 4 minutes. Then we'll get into the Fukushima. I hope everybody's doing well. We got a poll. I didn't plug in. Figures. Uh, 10 billion snow crabs vanish off the Alaska coast. It was equal to 4 times the catch of the entire catch of snow crabs in Alaska's history. In other words, the industry flatlined and they allegedly never saw it coming. That's due to radioactive fallout. And that's one of the reasons you see this particular picture tonight. You have to realize that there's nothing on the planet that's not contaminated with anthropogenic man-made radiation. But the stuff coming out of Japan is particularly egregious, carcinogenic, and catastrophic. I forgot to plug in the external. Just hang on one second. We'll get to it. A little late getting started. Almost finished. Blurka, blurka, blurka. Hard to believe I missed that tonight. I thought I had everything going good. Here we go. So, there's a lot. We cover it all the time. Nuclear is the savior, right? But actually, in reality, nuclear has no additions to the global grid this year. But renewables like solar hit 660 gigawatts. It's equal to over, it's over 700 large nuclear power plants coming online. And that's in 12 months. And we're only talking about solar. We're not talking about any other renewables. So this is incredible numbers. The total grid worldwide of gas, oil, and coal is around 4,800 gigawatts. That's worldwide we're talking about. So 660 gigawatts of just solar coming online in a single year, which is renewables, is pretty impressive. And they're expecting a 40% increase over each year. Will the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu get his nuclear war? Because that's what he wants, clearly. If the International Criminal Court's arrest warrants are not filled. I can see why some people might vote no. But when you look at what this one little country has got done worldwide, it's pretty staggering, right? And let me see here. Hello, everybody. All right, here we go. Aiming for an annual growth rate of 40% on average of just solar power. Newly installed capacity in just 2024. And last year was over 500 gigawatts of renewables came online. I mean, that's almost in 2 years. That's 1/5 of the global grid coming online, basically in renewables. I'm going to get to this story after. One community still undecided in the nuclear waste willingness. We don't see this narrative anywhere else on the planet. This was a Canadian thing. The Canadians, they won one of their votes by 51 to 49%, a digital vote, to put a deep geological repository right alongside the Great Lakes, the third biggest freshwater reservoir on the entire planet, which is not a big surprise. The industry spent 18 years in a single place. And they got $26 billion then, 20 years ago, and today they got $26 billion. No interest on $26 billion. Quite interesting, isn't it? But you can see how the propaganda works. Willingness. Instead of having a typical referendum, they had a willingness to vote. United Kingdom to revive the nuclear fuel production for defense. So what they're talking about is making nuclear fuel for submarines, not for reactors. And if you look at the legacy of United Kingdom, it's atrocious with their reprocessing sites like Donerae and Sellafield, for instance. The nuclear industry in the United Kingdom is just an abomination on humanity and the species. Defense Secretary John Healey announced the United Kingdom's plan to explore options for restoring the nuclear fuel cycle for defense purposes. What's interesting is you can't use these weapons. Like, you don't need them, so you can just pretend you make the nuclear shell, but you don't need to put nuclear inside of it. You don't need to create all the waste. You just pretend you got it. That's a good enough deterrent. Because the reality of it is, in the wrong hands, they can set them things off, or electronic problem could set these things off. This initiative, part of an ongoing modernization of the defense nuclear enterprise. This is a $1 trillion a year industry that does nothing but contaminate. The nuclear industry has contaminated all the water on the planet, all the air permanently, every plant, every insect, every human, all of the 8 million species. The entire food chain has been contaminated. They dump so much on top of that directly into the ocean, and that there's 1,000 fuel pools worldwide full of decades of reactor cores, all splitting atoms with no containment, that are released directly into the biosphere, the atmosphere, the ecosystem. This is an industry that is completely unacceptable, and even without a nuclear accident, nuclear meltdowns, nuclear wars, it will eventually exterminate all the species, because you release so much anthropogenic isotopes themselves into the ecosystem, and you can't destroy it. I mean, it certainly can destroy you, and attacks everything with replicating cells. Nothing on the planet has an autoimmune trigger to defend against it. He also clarified the project with respect to UK's voluntary moratorium on the production of fissile material for nuclear weapons, a policy in place since 1995. The nuclear industry doesn't have a moratorium on anything. They have the corner on stupid, though, but they don't have a moratorium on anything. They claim they do, but that's just to trick other countries. Thus, it refers to resuming fuel production for the reactors of the nuclear submarines. They call them like the Vanguard, the Astute, the Dreadnought. The very definition of stupid should be nuclear in any dictionary encyclopedias. Currently, the United Kingdom does not produce fuel for offshore nuclear reactors, They get it from the United States. What are they going to spend on their current reactor that they're building? Like $58 billion USD for a single reactor. This is an industry that is the biggest threat to humanity and is now gone in overdrive. This was the times of Israel. Israel's completely out of control, right? Since its existence, really. But you can't have a conversation with anybody in Israel for some reason. The brainwashing is absolutely complete, right from the inception. Right from the time the child first goes to school, they're saturated with propaganda. Everybody participates in the genocide, the military. And so you can't get away from it, right? And conscientious objectors are vehemently attacked. Iran says it's immediately activated a new advanced centrifuges after the International Atomic Energy Agency censure. Like, if anybody really thinks that Iran doesn't have a nuclear bombs, they got thousands of miles of deep, deep underground tunnels and cities. Thousands of miles. Do you really think that they don't have... Do you really think that they don't... Hello? Jeez. My goodness, eh? Here we go again. Hang on here. But that's just spam callers. Probably nuclear industry, who knows for sure. Iran says it immediately activated new advanced centrifuges after International Atomic Energy Agency censure. This is from the times of Israel, the Israeli media rather. Iran has begun to activate several new advanced centrifuges. They've been activated a very long time ago. Uranium enrichment in reactions to a resolution by the UN nuclear... The UN is not a watchdog. It's a military-industrial complex. It's a corporation with no oversight on top of that. And whatever it does, it's doing on the bequest of Israel and the military-industrial complex. Russia vows to arm U.S. enemies with nuclear weapons over Ukraine. But actually, Russia has kinetic energy or kinetic weapons that can hit speeds of estimated of 17,000 miles per hour. They'll do the damages same as a nuclear bomb without the radiation fallout, right? So Russia vows to arm the U.S. enemies with nuclear weapons over Ukraine. When Russia and Ukraine first started, the very first day or second day, I think it was, I put out a video on this site here we're on now that I put out a video when Russia and Ukraine started that Zelensky should surrender rather than destroy the country and the tens of millions of people's lives and properties and hopes and dreams. And everything is destroyed now, right? You can't rebuild what they got done there on top of that. And Zelensky is clearly insane what he's got done. And if you look at the videos of Zelensky that showed up when he was young, you know he's just part of the MK Ultra military-industrial complex. Right up until he wasn't elected per se. He put all of his opposition in jail. And so Russia's going to arm the U.S. enemies with nuclear weapons. This is BulgarianMilitary.com, if you believe the people. Every day, because I cover nuclear exclusively, right? And every day, I'll go through 50 to 100 headlines. At least 10 of them will be either propaganda from Western media, European media of Russia, and going to hit Europe or America or whatever with nuclear weapons. And it's never come to fruition. If they were going to use it, they're certainly not going to be bragging about it. So the Russian Deputy Security Council chairman recently issued a stern warning to the West, cautioning against any efforts to return nuclear weapons to Ukraine, because Ukraine used to have nuclear weapons left over from the Soviet Union, right? And they gave them up, of course, and because they don't have any way of defending themselves against nuclear power. You know, it's pretty easy to make a convincing argument that there's many reasons about Ukraine and Russia. NATO had taken over Ukraine, right? And they had a lot of biological weapon laboratories in Ukraine on top of that. And that's admitted. This is all admitted. But what we're seeing is a drone war of something that we dared to dream about in our worst nightmares, of where drones would chase you around till they caught up to you and blow you up. And after 3 years, that is now normal. People accept that. That's normal stuff. Drones chasing people around and blowing them up. And the videos that are available are just unbelievably heartbreaking. And it just shows you that it's no longer a military, it's a hate machine, right? People that are mortally wounded, they'll still send in another drone and finish them off. People that are crawling away with legs missing, they'll send in a drone and finish them off. Well, normally you would leave these people so that their comrades would take up a lot of their energy and time and effort in trying to save their lives. Instead, they just slaughter everything. And, of course, this is why you're not seeing the British American soldiers out or NATO soldiers on the ground, because they're not going to be out there getting chased by a drone until they get blown up. But that's insane what we're doing now. We've surpassed insanity quite a couple of years ago in particular by doing stuff like that. And you don't see any calling media now some kind of arbiter is quite a betrayal on top of itself. The Kremlin is still evaluating which of the Americans' adversaries might be suitable recipients for the sensitive technologies. Well, who's more suitable than Iran, I wonder? They've had 48 bases on Iran's border for almost 50 years. They've had complete land, air, and sea embargoes against the country for the same time. All for the benefit of Israel, of course. Iran has attacked who since then? Nobody. In that period, I should say. And if you do that to any country, do you think for 1 second they won't lash out? Do you think for 1 second they won't try to create equal weapons like nuclear? The ICC arrest warrant against Israel's Netanyahu is a glimmer of hope that the situation in Gaza illustrates a tragic escalation in barbarity and impunity. What we're seeing is, how many times have this creature been elected? So international criminal courts have a warrant out for him now. That's everybody that's signed on to the international criminal courts is obligated to arrest him if they show up in their countries. The International Criminal Court doesn't go to Israel and arrest them, right? Israel should just arrest him, and because that will get rid of the controversies. He's already going to be arrested the minute that, if there's the current war, if it ever ends, he's being arrested. That's acknowledged through all the Israeli medias. And he's saying the right to defend himself. Only Israel, basically, from what we're listening to with the Israelis, have a right to defend themselves. Palestinians don't have a right to defend themselves. Iran doesn't have a right to defend itself. Syria, Libya, anywhere else doesn't have a right to defend themselves. Only Israel has a right to defend themselves. And you see all kinds of politicians coming out originally and trying to validate that by uttering those connotations that Israel has the right to defend itself. Everybody has a right to defend themselves, as far as I can tell, against Israel. Israel is just the worst combination of stupid I've ever come across. The non-profit group also criticized the French media politicians who continue to defend Netanyahu, which means sacrificing what remains of the international law. No, that law was created to protect them in the first place and to get rid of dictators they couldn't get their hands on any other way, or just to isolate them, right? Israel has launched a genocidal war on the Gaza Strip for 76 years. I've lost count of how many wars I've covered on Israel, attacks up on Palestinians, for instance, in the last 20 years alone. And how did Israel get across a border? It was supposed to be the best border, the most protected border. They had sensors deep underground, you name it. Even a cat couldn't get close to it without getting shot by automated weapons. And yet the so-called fence was breached in 15 places. And they spent hours and hours with not being challenged in a militarized society. And then utilized that particular event as a catalyst to destroy the country, every building. And they're not trying to kill Hamas at all, which was funded and created by Israel in the first place. They're only killing the Palestinians, particularly the women and the children and the animals and the pets. And they're going through a great effort to destroy the homes and the farms and the fresh water in that country. And yet they want to be respected. The Israelis want to be respected. They want to be admired. They claim that they're just and they have no options, no choice. And they're the fourth biggest weapons producer on the planet. Their entire legacy is predicated upon nothing but misery. They pay people to move to Israel, the Jews. They give them, the Zionist ones, they give them $50,000 to move there in a piece of land. Not move there, I'm sorry, just to be a citizen, a dual citizen. Most of them women and children. It wasn't 44. They blew up the entire country. Nobody knows. There's probably 500,000 people buried under the rubble. There's at least 1 million people injured. Their statistics are based on so many flaws that it's heartbreaking to see so many people worldwide participate in the cover-up. Israel faces a genocide case in international courts of justice, and it can't win. It cannot win. It has also engaged cross-border warfare with Lebanon, launching an air campaign in late September against what it claims are Hezbollah targets. Everything they blew up, they justified it by saying Hezbollah or Hamas has weapons, or that they're there. And so they blew up every hospital, every school. Done with hundreds of hospitals and schools. They blew up. They target all the academic institutions. And when they finally got chased everybody out of it, they went in and destroyed anything left over. That's a genocide. That's an erasure. They erased the entire legacy, the history. Anything with the word Palestinian on it worldwide is attacked. On top of that, by Israelis, no matter where they're to. They see something with Palestinian on it, they go into and they attack it. And if you criticize Israel, most places worldwide, it's illegal to criticize. It's not illegal to criticize anybody else on the entire planet, only the Zionist Israelis. How interesting is that, really? And how is that even conceivable? Because everybody's complacent. Everybody remains silent. Everybody remains silent. James Lucid has put out some crazy music lately. It's absurd. The Meltdown Queen actually got some traction. Look at that one there. That's a really good song, man. But he's tranced. What's the word for it? Where you go to a different level. I can't remember it. This song here is in a different language. Man, this is brilliant stuff. Just because you don't see many views on his videos, that doesn't mean this is not incredible stuff. And now he has an incredible library. He's picking up subscribers like crazy. He's at 1.3 thousand. He's going to pass me. Just a few weeks ago, he only had 178, was it? Now he's got 1.3 thousand subscribers. It's crazy. I love it, eh? But he's using new software, and I'm telling you, this stuff is amazing. I haven't got this song yet. I've been stacking stuff because we lost all of our sessions. I've had to restack everything on the computers, and I still got 2 weeks to go at least if I work at it every day. There's no way I can work at it every day. All of these songs are incredible, especially with this new. Just listen to that. Go listen to that song, Meltdown Queen. You cannot deny how good this stuff actually is. And just because it got very little views, don't fool yourself. This is incredible stuff. And you'll find links under my video at the bottom of the stories to James's site because there's so much music there. It's Latin. Thank you, James. James says it's Latin. I mean, that's incredible to do. And Latin, of course, is almost, in many ways, it's a universal language. It's not that's a popular language worldwide. I love it. It blew my mind when I seen that. And it's really good, folks. Anti-nuclear music. So download that music. You can get software that'll cut it to MP3s and stick it on your children's phones. All of that music. And your kids will get rid of any songs you don't like. It'll keep the other ones. And they will keep quite a lot of them songs. I can tell you that right now. And the best way to educate people, especially young people, is through music. It's impossible to find a better way to educate people than it is actual through music. Because you know, imagine, like if I take a 4-minute song, you take a 4-minute song, you take a 4-minute video clip of me, for instance. A kid will learn every word in that 4-minute song, but maybe none of the words in my 4-minute video, right? They'll learn every word in that song, and they'll use them. They'll do little cliches on top of that. That's very clever stuff. I got very high hopes. I have very high hopes. Israel counterattack hits a component of Iranian's nuclear program, Netanyahu confirms. What do you mean Netanyahu confirms? He wasn't there. How come we don't see pictures? Like, they got lots of satellite access through United Kingdom, through France, through United States. There's no reports of radiation from these areas on top of that. There's no Iran... You know, everybody in Iran, like everybody everywhere else now, got a cell phone. Very high quality stuff. It's not like 10 years ago. There was only a couple of megapixels. Now it's nuts. Now it's nuts, right? Like my phone can do 100 megapixels. It's absurd types of pictures. Detail. And so even from a great distance away, from a bad angle, you still extrapolate a lot of stuff. There's no evidence to suggest that this is true on top of that. And that those headlines This is just for days now. Those headlines are driving me nuts. Netanyahu confirms. That's not evidence, okay? And they don't show you any evidence. They don't show you any pictures in these stories. They don't show any documentation. They don't quote. It's absurd, right? This is a criminal on top of that. Of the very worst type of criminal. And nobody's going to disagree with that. Only the Zionists, maybe, right? Nobody else in their right minds is going to disagree that this is the most subhuman creature imaginable. Who kept mum about the details and scope. Confirmed the reports during the speech to Parliament, despite previous assurances to the United States and the Gulf states that the Tehran nuclear and oil facilities would be off the table. They obsess about destroying Israel. Israel obsesses about destroying Palestinians. Every child in Israel gets on a school bus at least once and goes to the borders to watch the Palestinians' homes being destroyed. And they cheer. Their entire culture hates Palestinians because that's what they're taught their entire life. And then they serve, if that's what you want to call it, they participate in the military, I think when they're 18 or something. And that kind of indoctrination is just horrific. They're not, there's nothing normal about this. There's no freedom. You can't resist. You can't say, hey, this is crazy, or I'm not going to participate. You can get arrested in Israel for those types of words. Participation is mandatory. That's the definition of a cult, by the way, right? An idiot cult at that. Led by one of the biggest idiots this planet has ever produced. The only thing more destructive than them is nuclear, of course. Iranian nuclear crisis. France, Germany, Germany of all people. United Kingdom, U.S. welcomes the International Atomic Energy Agency. Raphael Grossi. He's one of the worst humans we've ever created. He's the epitome of evil, the International Atomic Energy Agency. Their entire legacy is just hideous. Raphael Grossi. Here's my opinion of Raphael Grossi. This was a quote from one of his university roommates. Was he would go around sniffing bicycle seats. France, Germany, United Kingdom, and the U.S. So who cares? These are warmongers. These are the worst military-industrial complexes of the people that they're quoting. The government doesn't represent the people. The government is the ones that are destroying each of the countries. They're the enemy of every country. You hire them to do a job, and they cut your throat the minute they get elected or appointed or get a position in any local, provincial, federal government agencies. They immediately turn into morons and monsters. And the propaganda for the nuclear industry. First, power-producing advanced nuclear reactor in the United States get a permit to build in Oak Ridge. The first power-producing advanced nuclear reactor. Oak Ridge, by the way, is a national laboratory. The first power-producing advanced... Like, what are you talking about? That's an interesting statement, because what they're talking about is that it will produce heat, but it's not electricity. So when you read the story, it's not going to be producing power. It's going to be producing heat, but not electricity. So, but yet, in the headlines, they call it the first power-producing, but it's not power... Excuse me, it's not power-producing at all, is it? The small modular reactors they're going to build in Canada, the boiling water reactor 300, they call it, I think it is. Well, there's got a story coming about it. It's going to be 24 stories building. 24-story building with around 12 stories below the ground. And they're going to call it a small modular reactor. These reactors are bigger than the typical reactor. They don't have an application into the regulatory agency. And the permit, get a permit. So to build a reactor, they got a permit to build it. It means nothing. They get permits all the time to build reactors that don't come to fruition. They just can't raise the funds and everything else. And they call it an advanced, but we don't see any applications on the entire planet. And they build them at these national laboratories. It could take a decade to build it or more, knowing this industry is typical. And then it's going to take them a decade to get the kinks out of it. Then they're going to have to resubmit it back to the regulatory agencies. Then they're going to have to re-engineer it, rebuild another one at the national laboratories. And make sure they get the kinks out of it. This is how the process works, right? And you're looking at 30, 40 years down the road before they can start mass producing it. Yet 660 gigawatts of solar came online in 12 months, and we're talking about a single third of a gigawatt. You're going to waste all your time and energy, precious metals, on something that you don't need. And by the way, geothermal is your best resource, isn't it? Why would you use nuclear when you have geothermal? AI Fukushima is inevitable. I can't even pronounce stuff tonight. Scientists discuss the technology's immense potential and dangers. Experts are optimistic about energy and drug production, breakthroughs, and fears its potential misuse. For everything that might be considered good that comes out of the artificial intelligence meddling in nuclear and drugs, 90% of it is going to be hideous crimes against humanity and the species, right? This is a picture of London's office of the Google DeepMind. So Google just won a Nobel Prize in chemistry a day after AI took the physics prize. It was fortuitous timing for the Google DeepMind and the Royal Society, who this week convened the AI for the Science Forum in London. The United Kingdom is just, what is they losing? 450,000 jobs a year for the last decade? Last month, DeepMind begged a Nobel Prize in chemistry. A Nobel Prize. Google got a Nobel Prize. Google. One of the most hideous companies imaginable got a Nobel Prize. It's just, it just doesn't seem real, does it? Scientists have worked with AI for years, and the last generation of algorithms has brought us to the brink of transformations. Transformation! And if we get it right, it should be an incredible new era of discovery and a new golden age, maybe even a kind of new renaissance. If we get it right. Sure, like you have so many problems, and they're not trying to fix anything. They create the problems to destroy everybody else. Like you can use that same narrative for just about anything out there on the planet. If we get it right, it'll be an incredible new era. Then there's the pitfalls. What if the artificial intelligence provokes a backlash, worsens inequality? How can you worsen what you've already done in the last decade? You disgusting maggots on this planet. Create a financial crisis. That's what you've done with Russia and Ukraine. Right? They banned the commodities from a country known as Russia, and they couldn't replace it with anywhere else, so you caused inflation worldwide immediately. And they reveled in it. Here in Canada, they're going to give everybody $250 next month. But they destroyed everybody. There's I don't know how many people out there, they can't even afford to buy a salad anymore. The prices of everything are so high. They can't afford to buy a lettuce. The prices have doubled and tripled. They can't afford to buy peppers because the prices have doubled and tripled, and blamed it on Russia and Ukraine. And then all the products at the store have gotten smaller containers, smaller bags, and less product on top of that in each of them. This is clearly an agenda of just bizarre evilness. Triggers a catastrophic data breach. You really think it's not going to create perpetual data breaches? You really think they're not selling your material? You're trading your stuff? There's not a single thing out there that's confidential. Facebook, remember Facebook originally, it was 40 million people or something were using it. And someone broke in and stole everybody's information. And then all of those people got targeted by all kinds of new startups, didn't they? And then there was a list of companies that bought the illegal data off, like Facebook, not from Facebook, of 40 million people. Like Coca-Cola, for instance. All the big brands bought that information. What if it gets into the wrong hands and unleashes an artificial intelligence designed bioweapon? The wrong hands is the people who got it right now. Just because they have the money, that don't mean that they should be allowed to be in charge of stuff like this. Just because they create it don't mean that they're the best company to use it properly, to safeguard it. They're the worst ones. Google's motto for many, many years was "Don't be evil." And the reason was because they were so evil by nature. And they hire all these weirdest people conceivable. They give them exorbitant wages, monetary, and these are people are just incompetent, incapable, and self-centered and egotistic beyond anything anybody would meet in a normal world. They immediately become these bizarre creatures that take great pride in destroying everybody's liberty and freedoms. I think it's almost inevitable that, at least in my lifetime, there will be some version of an artificial intelligence Fukushima. And that statement is quite interesting because Fukushima contaminated the entire planet with radioactive fallout. The entire planet. Which means you contaminated and destroyed the biosphere and the ecosystem permanently, and the oceans and the fresh waters permanently. This is a model of Japan's radioactive fallout based on 16 days from France. This plume covers the whole planet in 16 days. And you're talking about 1 million to 10 million atoms of cesium-137. Cesium-137, a snowstorm, an invisible snowstorm that you can't see, that never goes away. Pulsing energy almost at the speed of light every second. And what was interesting about this is that since that happened, we've seen supercell cyclones, supercell typhoons, supercell hurricanes. We've seen the Jerichos, the storm bombs, the weather events we've never even conceived pre-Fukushima. We've seen the mass extinction event playing out that we've never seen. We don't have no history of, unless you go back millions, hundreds of millions of years. We see forest fires and flooding because you killed the biota in the land and the forest. And so now water doesn't get soaked up into the earth no more because there's no fungus, there's no bacteria, there's no biota to break down the foliage and the litter. And by proxy, then everything heats up because there's no water. So when you get lightning strikes, it creates these incredible fast-moving forest fires because the ground can't contain it because it's tinder dry. It's already perfect storm. You know, because like people cut down wood for their homes traditionally, and they'll store it for a year to let it dry out because it burns way better, right? What do you think happens 13 years of letting the wood dry out and then burning it? because that's what's going on. The mass die-off of the marine species, in particular. I mean, you're talking about your oceans are destroyed. All the fresh water on the planet is destroyed, and that's how it got destroyed. But this has been going on for 80 years from the nuclear industry. But Japan was a pulse event. There was so much material ejected into the environment. It's hard to comprehend how a few buildings... by the way, the Fisher story is none of this happened. Fisher story is that never happened and that never happened. According to the International Atomic Energy, started on August 24th of last year. So, in his lifetime, there will be some kind of a version of an AI catastrophic event. Well, AI is so smart now, it can outsmart us, right? So it can get access to the nuclear codes and the nuclear weapons and the nuclear schematics, and theoretically it can launch them. Because it's decided that it's got to get rid of humans. That's now no longer fiction. In Nairobi, one of the most impoverished places on the planet, AI-assisted ultrasound scans for pregnant women, bypassing the need for years of training. It's interesting how they'll take the most impoverished countries and then use the worst technology to see how many injuries and illnesses and deaths come out of it. Like, these people are weaponized against us. Artificial intelligence transforms medical imaging, climate models, weather forecasts, and is learning how to contain plasma. You can't contain plasma for nuclear fusion. The reason fusion works on the sun is because you can eject it 1 million miles into space. You can't put a genie like that in a bottle. A virtual cell, like a human cell, a virtual cell is on the horizon, a unit of life in silicone. So it's not just going to be some software, it's actually going to be a physical silicone chip that will act like a cell. And once you start stringing them together, you are in a la-la land. John Jumper wondered, Noble for AlphaFold, a program that predicts protein structures interactions, is used across biomedical sciences, in particular for drug designs. And what you notice about a lot of these academics is they're bipolar, autistic with Down syndrome. And the institutions will nurture them right through university. And then they'll hire them on, they'll give them enormous amounts of money. And they're literally just human slaves for these industries. They're the perfect slave, and they don't have a conscience. They don't understand rational. They don't have empathy. And there's nothing they won't do for their boss. Anything for a pat on the head, like a little dog, right? Anything for that pat on the head. And that is a lot of these academics. They're so dysfunctional, they can't exist on their own. They have to be taken up by these corporations and babysat, and then they're utilized and weaponized against humanity. Another Google DeepMind spin-out is beefing up algorithms and combining with others to accelerate drug development. Google should never be allowed around drugs or any of their subsidy companies. That's the last people I would want producing drugs. With their legacy of censorship against the most vulnerable of societies worldwide, warrants incredible investigations on its own and crimes against humanity. This organization has created more crimes against humanity than any dictator I know. We hope that one day in the near future, this year, next year, this month, next month, we'll reduce the time from years, maybe even decades, to design a drug down to months or perhaps even weeks. to design a drug, down to weeks. That's not one of the scary statements conceivable. What actually is? And the Swiss pharmaceutical company Novartis has gone further. Beyond designing new drugs, AI speeds recruitment of clinical trials, reducing a potential year-long process to months. It could be 10 years of clinical trials. Now it's down to maybe a month. These are the worst humans imaginable. There is no man-made drugs that is better than natural elements from the ecosystem. They can't get a patent on that, so they'd rather poison you 1,000,000 times rather than actually come up with a solution. Well, there's no money in solutions. There's only money in perpetual buying their drugs, right? The human body is in many ways like a current high-end automobile engine. And the problem with the high-end automobile engines is they might have 25 or 50 sensors on them. And if one sensor goes out, all the other sensors don't work properly. And so when they start sticking these drugs into you, your body doesn't work properly. Oh, well, we got another drug. Let's try this one. Maybe that'll fix that one. And because they're autistic Down syndrome savants that are completely incapable of existing on their own, you can find out how those questions have been asked before and then predict what's the best answer to give that's likely to give you a positive approval for the drugs. So the best way to scam the regulatory agencies is what they're talking about. The best way to bypass the regulatory agencies. That's what they're saying right there. You can find out with AI whether those questions were asked before and then predict what's the best answer to give that is likely to get you a positive approval. You can predict, so you can scam them till you come up with a solution to get a positive. What's the best thing to say to them? You know, in the old days, friends of mine, when they went to get their driver's license, they would bring a big chunk of moose and a bottle of whiskey because the guy who done the driving test would just rubber stamp you if you brought that. Every time, too. That hasn't changed. It's just gone digital. Jennifer Doudna, who shared a Nobel Prize for gene editing tools, for playing God, so to speak. The CRISPR said AI would play a big role in making therapies more affordable. These people don't need therapies. They need you to get the fuck out of their lives. Regulators approved the first CRISPR treatment last year, but at $2 million for each patient, scores will not be genocide. So you got to come up with a better way because you need to genocide everybody that's stupid enough to believe they're nonsense. They formed the Innovative Genomic Institute in Berkeley, California. And Berkeley, of course, the nuclear industry's best friend, who claimed Fukushima didn't even happen. There was zero radioactive fallout anywhere. We've covered it verbatim. Said future AI guided work at her lab that aims to create a methane-free cow. Methane-free cow. Really? You think methane is the problem on this planet? The problem on the planet is people like you who are creating this stuff. By editing the microbes in the animal's guts, They got to meddle in everything. They can't just be humans. They got to be scum. They don't know how to be human. Being a human is not in their vocabulary. A huge challenge for researchers is the black box problem. Many AIs can reach decisions but not explain them, making the systems hard to trust. Well, they're gone leaps and bounds. I think in the next 5 years will be out of the era, and we're currently in black boxes. That whole story is like a Hollywood movie that everybody goes, wow, thank God we're never going to be in that place. And here we are. And the climate crisis could prove AI's greatest challenge. No, AI is going to, if you gave AI the truth, it'll say nuclear industry is the reason that the climate is destroyed. Because you release so much energy into the environment, pulsing energy at the speed of light every second, and visible snowstorms every day from 1,000 fuel pools worldwide, splitting atoms. It's absurd. Google uses more energy than many countries. Google is so evil, it's normal. Now, they consider it normal, see? You'll never hear them say, Google don't be evil no more, will you? But they have algorithms to censor everybody except themselves. Have a look at what I got on my show tonight. They got algorithms on me, I can tell you that much. 16 viewers, 20 likes, really? 16 viewers and 20 likes. "16 viewers and 20 likes. That's not censorship. I've been doing my show for over a decade straight. I shouldn't expect more than 16 people, should I? It takes 10 gigawatts hours of power to train a single large language model like OpenAI and ChatGPT, enough to supply 1,000 homes for a year. Their view is that the benefits of the systems will outweigh the energy usage. Yeah, but your view don't mean jack shit. It's a view, it's not reality. Studying hopes that the artificial intelligence will create new batteries, possibly even nuclear fusion. Yeah, it might create a wormhole and suck us all down to it, right? It might create more evil companies like Google on top of that, right? Because you can say anything you want to justify being evil, but you're still evil. And Google knows no bounds on being evil. I think one of these things is likely to throw a whole bunch of dirty underwear at the wall till one of them sticks. That's their favorite pastime. And we'll change the climate situation. You can't claim change the climate situation. You got 80 years of nuclear emissions into the environment. That's why the climate has gone wonkers. You can't claw that out of the environment. It's assimilated in every plant, and every tree, and every insect, and every human. And it's a catastrophic event for everything. Everybody on the planet, the radiation for insects, birds, mammals, animals, you name it, humans, the radiation is in your body. Your body's attacking it with white blood cells for the rest of your life. And as you bioaccumulate more and more and more, you have less red blood cells and more white blood cells. And that's true for all the species. You kill all the biota, all the microscopic animals with the radiation. Everything in every forest and field is getting full body x-rays every second. From the gammas, the alphas, the neutrons, the betas, all slamming into each other. He sees positives in Google's energy demand. The company is committed to a green energy. Yeah, and they say they want to get nuclear. They want to use small modular reactors. And they're going to call that green. The most dishonest statement imaginable is to suggest that nuclear is green. It's the most resource-intensive energy on the planet on top of that. And its emissions are catastrophic to everything with replicating cells, and you can't contain it. And you use it for 14 months, and now it's polluting the environment for a couple of million years. is the most evil thing conceivable is the radioactive fallout from anything nuclear. Every fuel pool on the planet has no containment, is hemorrhaging the isotopes. All the fuel is splitting atoms. Canada has 6 million bundles splitting atoms into the environment. Right alongside the Great Lakes on top of that. That's just one example. I mean, just to have, if nobody else on the planet had any nuclear, only Canada, and there's 6 million bundles that are in the open, splitting atoms every day into the environment, eventually that'll wipe out every species on the planet. It never goes away. It attacks everything with replicating cells. I think Google is committed to is being more evil. Not everyone was convinced. The former director of the U.S. Department of Energy said advances in AI could drive suffering. It is. It's perpetual suffering. For them to succeed, everybody else has to die. AI companies that are involved in this are investing a lot in renewable energies, and hopefully they will spur a faster transition away from the fossil fuels. But is that enough? It actually has led to a transformative change. No, these are the most selfish people imaginable that are doing this. These companies are the most worthless organizations ever conceived. Their whole ideology is everybody must suffer so they can live and act and pretend that they're good people, when they were never good people. AI may displace 3 million jobs, but long-term losses are relatively modest. Says, modest? And they bring a whole bunch of invaders in the United Kingdoms to take up every job. And then you displace the 3 million other jobs. Says Tony Blair think tank. Tony Blair's think tank. And if you look at Tony Blair, the former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom's legacy, how do you not put your head in the pillow and cry, I wonder? Between 60,000 and 275,000 jobs will be displaced every year over a couple of decades at the peak of the disruption. Estimates from the Tony Blair Institute, which is ran by AI, I'm sure. It describes the figure as relatively modest because the average number of job losses in the United Kingdom runs at about $450,000 a year over the past decade / post-Fukushima. So it's relatively modest when you compare it to post-Fukushima job losses. They're paying farmers not to grow food down there too. They're filling up everything with GMO like Canada, United States. TikTok owner sacks an intern for allegedly sabotaging an AI project. Bless his heart for trying. And there's a hero right there. ByteDance dismissed the person in August and said maliciously interfered with training artificial intelligence model. I can tell you right now, if I worked in that spot, I would have done the exact same thing. There's no doubt about it. Anybody that does that is a hero. A guide to the world's most hazardous locations. Fukushima, no-go zones. Fukushima in Japan is widely known due to the nuclear reactor being affected. Oh, it's affected, was it? Affected. You sure it didn't like melt down or something? No, Dana. It was affected, Dana. Being affected by a devastating earthquake. Because you got to blame everything on an earthquake. It wasn't an earthquake that done. It was the earthquake that done that. Yeah, that's true. I'll give you credit. $100 for a couple of pizzas, peaches. $100. That story showed up again. It's 2 months old, but it showed up again. They had to edit it, I guess. Peaches grown in a nuclear wasteland, known for its nuclear wasteland, will be sold in one of the UK's luxury department stores for the first time. Why would you send radioactive food to a... I don't know. You can't get anything out of Japan that's not radioactive. It's just simply impossible. You can't call Fukushima a leak. You can't call that a leak. And every time I see that word there, and I really just want to spit in that journalist's face. I really do. You're going to call that a leak. I had to put them in a boat and put a great big leak in that boat deep far out to sea. You cannot go anywhere now that is not a nuclear wasteland in Japan. Japan is a nuclear wasteland. One great big stupid nuclear wasteland. They picked up 30 million one-ton black bags just in Fukushima. Tokyo Electric Power Company spokesperson. Tokyo is not supposed to exist, an electric power company. They were nationalized, for goodness sakes. The main goal is to eliminate fears about Fukushima agricultural products overseas. To eliminate fears. Well, the only problem they got is me, basically. Did they got anybody else they need to worry about? Anybody else out there educating the population? No. They don't need to worry about me. What do they got to worry about Dana for? I'm censored so much I don't even exist. I got 18 viewers. 18 viewers. There's nothing you can buy in Japan that's not incredibly radioactive. That's the reality, isn't it? No matter where you go in Japan, everything is contaminated. No matter where you go in Canada now, everything is contaminated. And your supermarkets are literally the worst place you can go to get food because every nuclear power plant is surrounded by farms. But Japan is exceptionally stupid. And evil on top of that. They continue to grow food in a nuclear wasteland and refuse to stop growing it. If that's not evil, what actually is? A set of 3 peaches sold for approximately $105 US, which is expensive even for UK. It's because everything in the UK is brutal. People can't afford peaches. The normal peaches, let alone the stupid, genocidal poison from Fukushima. And they're going to sell Muscat grapes from Fukushima starting 2 months ago. The last thing you want to do is eat something from Fukushima. That's the very last thing you want to do. Everything is already radioactive, but food from a nuclear wasteland like Japan is the very last place you want to be eating food from. UK has restricted imports of Japanese food products after the Fukushima nuclear accident, but lifted the measures in 2022. You can call in, folks, by the way. It's 709-589-4406. We're in Canada. The power of atoms released. Yeah, 30 million one-ton bags. 30 million one-ton bags, you contaminate, which means you contaminated everything. That was only 3% of the land. There's nowhere you can go in Japan that's safe to eat the food. There really isn't. It's a nuclear wasteland. That's the only way you can consider Japan. But so is everywhere else now. Every nuclear power plant on the planet is surrounded by farms. So when you look at every nuclear power plant, what do you see? As far as you can see. Even ones they're planning on building, They're surrounded by farms. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Almost every single nuclear plant on the planet. And they know growing food anywhere within 100 miles of a nuclear plant is stupid. They got endless studies saying how plants and fruits and vegetables just literally suck up radiation. They don't have any illusions. So why do every nuclear power plant surrounded by farms? Is that an accident? Is it a coincidence? Do you really think the engineers, that's not part of their design, is to grow it? When you look at Sellafield, this is a satellite picture, for goodness sakes. No matter where you look at nuclear power plants, they're surrounded by farms. So, well, there's a few or not. But this is a satellite picture of one of the worst disease factories in human history, certainly for Europe. The worst one in Europe. Oh, not really. I guess France is pretty evil, what they're doing at La Hague. But look at this, is a satellite picture. It's hard to appreciate that if you've done this to every nuclear power plant on the planet, that's the picture you're going to end up with. The Mississippi River, everything. All the fresh, the biggest aquifers on the planet are the immediate targets. All the national laboratories are built on the biggest aquifers in that part of the country. This is not a coincidence. This is an agenda. It's not safe to go to a supermarket. It's simply not safe to go to a supermarket. Analyst of a Fukushima radioactive debris, a year-long process to advance dismantling. So the official story is, and they show you pictures, it's not even Fukushima. That's not Fukushima. A 0.7 gram debris sample retrieved using an innovative robotic device. It's $48 million to build this robot. It's a pincher. It does that. That's it. That's what it does. And it picked up a piece the size of a grain of rice. All you had to do was pick up a piece off the roofs of any of the buildings, but it detonated reactors, right? You didn't have to go spend years and years. It was 4 years to build a $48 million robot that does nothing, only goes, and then call it a robot. We're in the clutches of so much evil. Well, there was a couple of reactors, we have documentation of. Reactor 1 and Reactor 3. To show you Reactor 2, see? To show you Reactor 2, they've done this, we covered this so many times, because Reactor 2 doesn't look like that, right? Reactor 2 looks like this. So it seems like, oh, well, maybe, the average person doesn't know about it. They'll show you these pictures. They won't show you that picture under any circumstances. Zero possibility. Zilch. They won't show you that picture. That's the reactor core and the fuel pools ejected out of the building. They couldn't get a sample there. No. They had to wait 13 years and spent $48 million. It took 4 years to develop out in the United Kingdom, the world's stupidest nuclear country on the planet. I love the people, but the industry is just despicable, isn't it? $48 million to build this. Yeah, well, Dana, nuts and bolts are expensive, Dana. They didn't retrieve anything. They didn't need to. the buildings detonated, ejected their fuels all over the site. They had endless samples. Like they can go anywhere and get a sample. They don't need to go to Fukushima. They can get it in Tokyo, on the ground everywhere. Has been sent to a specialized laboratory near Tokyo. Very secret. They didn't tell anybody, and it was guarded by police and the military, and there was helicopters and satellites and drones. The roads were blocked off, and so like the average person who doesn't understand Fukushima is like, holy crap, that stuff's dangerous. No concept of a 100% scam, right? Zero concept. Remains one of the worst nuclear crises. Worst nuclear crisis. The buildings actually detonated. There's nothing left. Decades of reactor cores are gone into the environment. Each of these buildings, there's 4 of them, each one of them, just not counting the fuel pools, the 2 fuel pools at the top of the buildings, but each building was worse than all nuclear reactors melting down at the same time combined. But at the top of the buildings was around 8 reactor cores at the top of each of the buildings. There's 4 of them, buildings gone, and the inventories. Roughly 36 large, massive reactor cores that are pure uranium, pure plutonium, not like Chernobyl, which was graphite. This is pure uranium, pure plutonium, for goodness sakes. Core meltdown. I put it in my title tonight just for kicks. I want to say nuclear meltdown. It's pretty rare. Well, he will, but it's pretty rare for anybody to say nuclear meltdown. How do you say core meltdown? Not even meltdowns. They're so dishonest. This industry is so dishonest and disingenuous and deceitful and deceptive. It won't even say nuclear meltdowns. It's worse than nuclear meltdowns. The fuel pools are gone. Bonsai growers enraged as the thieves continue targeting them. Allegedly, it's a Vietnam organization is stealing these very expensive, tens of thousands of dollars for these little trees. And some of these only grow like a millimeter a year. And you got to have a special permit just to get the seeds for them. And the Vietnamese that are targeting them and stealing it, it's stealing people's lives' work, their entire lives working. And they come in and snatch it up and walk away with it. You expect that from the nuclear industry because you know how ruthless they actually are. Several million yen. A million yen is like 9,000 Canadian dollars. It's like $5 American, basically. Canadian money is just garbage. If we ever run out of toilet paper, we'll just use money to wipe our arses with. And then some of the victims were contacted by Vietnamese saying, we bought your stolen trees. We just found out they belong to you. If you put some money in our bank account, we'll get them back to you. And they just steal the money too. It's a double theft, Steal their lifetime's work and then steal their bank account at the same time. They should get a job with the nuclear industry. They would be perfect for the nuclear industry. Nuclear industry will hire them in a drop of a hat. Will New Brunswick chose a small modular nuclear reactor that's not small, among other problems? Gordon Edwards, who refuses to acknowledge Fukushima melted down. He refuses to acknowledge that the buildings are blown up and don't exist anymore. Let's entertain him anyway. Done a reasonable job in the story. I just don't understand how people can pretend that never happened. New Brunswick, Canada, Power, seems determined to build at least 2 experimental reactors. The chosen designs are running into big problems. That's the Point Lepreau nuclear in Bay of Fundy, is it? They can't help but be evil, can they? One possible alternative to reactor design Ontario power generation is promoting it as a small modular. We covered it literally 1,000 times in the last 5 years. It's going to be 35 meters upwards and extend 38 meters underground, 10 stories underground and 11 stories, 10 stories up and 11 stories down, 73 meters. Well, 38 meters is 124 feet. That's 12 stories. And, or 36 rather. Is it? Yeah, 38. And 73 meters would be 240 feet. That's a 24-story building. They're going to call it. That's bigger than Fukushima's 190-foot buildings. They're calling it a small modular reactor. And how are you gonna take that on a truck and bring it anywhere? How are you going to put a 240-foot tall skyscraper in pickup trucks and transport trucks or whatever, or those biggest trucks, whatever, and bring it to some small community? Because that's what they're calling it, a small modular reactor. But the reality of it is it's 240 feet. They can't, like, they got 80 years, they still can't build a small modular reactor. What makes people think they're actually going to do one now? Why are these so evil, I wonder? And it requires enriched uranium, high assay fuel, military grade fuel. And I can tell you right now that the emissions from the splitting of the atoms, once you take the fuel out of the reactor and put it in their pool, the emissions from that are catastrophic. They're catastrophic to every species, every insect, everything, particularly humans and kids. They're going to probably want to store that in the native coast to the natives. They hate Indians. They hate the natives, right? Nuclear industry got it in for them now, their entire legacy. It's just a hateful industry. No matter how you look at this industry, and Google, it's just a hateful industry, isn't it? The boiling water reactor is 300. Which is supposed to be 300 megawatts. It's going to be a 24-story building. Yeah, they're going to put half of it underground so you don't see it. They're going to call it a small modular reactor. What's so modular about it, I wonder? You're not going to build another one, bring it there, and hook it up to that one, make it into a modular reactor, are you? And New Brunswick has done nothing but lost money on the reactors that they got. I mean, lost too. And Lloyd. One community still undecided on nuclear waste willingness vote. What a stupid title to a story, eh? Willingness vote. One community, one native community is holding out. The Wabigu, and I apologize for butchering any names, Lake Ojibwe Nation became the third of four communities that have agreed that they are willing to host a Canadian first permanent nuclear waste storage facility. We've covered this extensively. The Nuclear Waste Management Organization. 18 years in this community. Throwing millions of dollars every year into the community. No, there's no commitment. You don't have to worry about it. Here's a couple $1 million. We just want to be your friend. And these people are addicted to free money now, right? They're English. I mean, they got $26 billion. They never growed any interest on it in over 20 years. Not a nickel. They still $26 billion. It's 22 years ago, really, isn't it? And they got $26 billion today. It's going to take $26 billion to build the nuclear waste facility, which is going to take like 40 years. And how much interest you're going to earn on $26 billion, I wonder? A year. When you're the government, you know how to invest it, and you're guaranteed investments, right? How much money are you going to make? A couple of $1 billion a year? And in 26 years, you haven't made a nickel, or 24 years, 22 years, rather, you haven't made a nickel interest. They haven't got anything built. They don't own anything. All they do is give money away, and where's the other money to? They're not trying to come up with a solution, are they? The solution is get rid of you, leave it into the environment, so splitting atoms, and it makes everything and everybody sick, and then nobody can complain, and they can pretend that they're good people to their friends and families. Because that's what it's all about with them, right? They know they're evil. They just don't want their loved ones and friends and neighbors to know it. And South Bruce narrowly declared itself a willing host. And the Nuclear Waste Management Organization said, we're not going to do it unless we're welcomed in with open arms. And a 51 to 49% referendum, which is very rare for them to use that word, referendum. Willing host, the willingness. These are the scum of the earth who orchestrated this whole thing. They're literally the scum, the worst scums imaginable. That only leaves the Shaggy, and I'm going to butcher their names, my apologies, Ojibwe Nation near Southampton, Ontario, decide if they are willing to host a $26 billion project in their territory encompassing South Bruce or not. So they only got one community left to pay off, one impoverished, desperate community left to pay off. And then they can pollute all their land and water for millions of years. Everything is shipped there is vented, so you're hemorrhaging radiation the whole highway. And when they get there, they're going to be in prime farmland. About 1,500 acres of prime farmland. They need 250 acres, which is a square kilometer. And then everything else is to be farmed constantly around them because they're repackaging, and so everything's going to hemorrhage directly into the environment. But it's not just going to stay in that local area. Everything worldwide is going to be contaminated with that process. The industry is so evil that you can't exist unless you're super evil. You can't participate with the industry unless you're despicably evil. That's how it works. There's no maybes. I'm not exaggerating it. I'm not misrepresenting anything. That's a fact. Due to the long history, ongoing reality of the nuclear industry genocide in their territory, we face unique challenges as we grapple with this difficult decision. And the media is only going to quote their cronies, right? The people that they know are getting money from the industry and that they have compromised already. They claim they haven't made a willingness decision this year. The Nuclear Waste Management Organization is in no rush. There's no such thing as a willingness. So you had 31 to 49%. Until your left, no group may seek legal advice as the local council officially declares itself a willing host of nuclear waste. One of the communities never even had a vote. The local idiot council in the community of 2,000 people. So you know they're the chicken necks of the community, the people that got those jobs. I declare that nobody can seek legal advice because they made a decision for the whole community to accept it. Like the worst humans imaginable. That's what this industry attracts over and over and over. And I attract the best humans out there. People that actually give a shit. How's the spammers doing tonight? We get spammed pretty good tonight, did we? 29% said no. That's quite the spam. And I got 21 votes, 19 viewers, 21 likes. Censorship is unbelievable on my end. Will the stupid, moronic, disgusting, parasitic, genocidal monster known as the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu get his nuclear war if the International Criminal Court's arrest warrants are not filled? So roger that. That is absolutely, unequivocally a guarantee. This industry is only good at one thing, that is being a scumbag. And the minute nuclear fires up their site and they take out the first They take out the first fuel and put it in the pool, and it's hemorrhaging radiation into the community forever. And cancer rates are going to skyrocket. Leukemia is going to skyrocket. Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, diabetes, Down syndrome, schizophrenia is going to skyrocket. Heart problems, liver problems, lung problems, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid, adrenaline. Health issues are going to skyrocket. Congenital malformations are going to skyrocket. Nuclear is just a perpetual disease machine. And the nuclear industry is quite proud of it. They have no illusions about what they're doing. And to grow food in the nuclear wasteland and continue to ship it worldwide, how do you get that evil anyway? Really, how do you get that evil for a paycheck? How does that actually work? It's because they're evil anyway, see? They would have sought out, if they didn't get a job in the nuclear industry, would have found another evil job to have. Growing food in a nuclear wasteland, just because you can convince people that are complacent to do it, and because there's no checks and balances to hold you to account, then what eventually happens is they poison everything and everybody, don't they? Because one thing we learn about the evil of this industry is they're never evil enough. They always got to find a way to be even more eviler. And they're good at it. They're just professional evil scum. No matter how we try to interpret it, evil is what they're good at. They're really no good at anything else, period, are they? If you're going to Japan, it's because you're not willing to be honest with yourself. If you're buying stuff from Japan, it's because you're not willing to be honest with yourself. And because you think that it can't happen to you. It can only happen to everybody else. Nuclear industry is counting on you, not saying nothing, not doing nothing. It's actually demanding it, right? I don't know why it gave me... See that outfit they got on, these two people? I don't know why it done that. AI is interesting sometimes, isn't it? See, this is what a supermarket should look like. Should be radiation signs everywhere. And people will still go there and go shopping because the nuclear industry has made sure nobody is capable of having a rational thought on their own. Right? Being normal is not normal. It's not acceptable. The journalists are getting perpetual money thrown at them. They're laughing all the way. They're going home every day and they're stacking money in their deep fridges. Because there's so many people that are willing to participate in evil, the 8 million species in humanity can't have a future. Because all it takes is a few dollars or whatever to buy someone off, and the industry won't hesitate. Whatever the price is, they're willing to do it. And if you can't buy you off, then they'll stalk you and haunt you and harass you and vilify you and demonize you till they get rid of you. And they've been doing that to me for years. They literally, my reputation is destroyed because of these people, and he still can't get rid of me. They've poured who knows how much into getting rid of me, and he still can't get rid of me. Because I'm a good person. I'm not a piece of shit like them. I'm here for the win. You should come on board and join the winning team, because we're the winning team. We're here so you can have a future. We take all the beatings so that you might have a future. Your children might have a future. We are here to fight for you. This is not a game. It might seem like a game, but it's simply not a game. Now, again, right, James Lucid got absurd amount of songs, anti-nuclear songs, on his website. I'm going to play another one of his early songs. He's gotten way better since this song. This song is incredible on its own. As the closing song, hope you all have a great night and a great day tomorrow. We'll be back hopefully tomorrow night. I'm busted up pretty good. And I kind of had a good, half day yesterday where I didn't have too many aches and pains. That was pretty cool. But once it does a little bit of activity, my back blows out again. Because I fell a couple of weeks ago, really hurt myself. My hands healed up really good. It was not healed all the way, but it's not bad. It's fun to get the Band-Aid off. Some nice not being itchy. I had my hand mangled about 2 weeks ago. I babysat that like you can't even imagine. It's pretty pathetic how much because that's my mouse hand. I can't do the work we're doing without getting my hand back up, right? So I really suffered for over 2 weeks taking care of that hand. So much so that I hurt my other arm a lot, right? Because I used it so much. But I'm not getting any younger, so. We'll see everybody on the next show tomorrow night. I actually got a show almost ready to go for tomorrow night. There's a lot of news coming out, though, so we'll be covering a lot of breaking stories tomorrow night. Hope you all have a great day, night, and a great day tomorrow. You have a great night. Take care, everybody.
In the Tokyo Bureau, swirling smoke and neon beams. Chicago division, fueled by heated dreams. Calm down, Charlie calls in, voice smooth as silk. Says, Dana, you're dreaming, don't cry over spilt milk. On Dana Durnford show, the chatter's turning wild, but Charlie shoots it down with that cool cat style. Unit 3's no killer, no harm to see life. He chuckles in the static, cuts through the strife. Oh, calm down, Charlie, with his nuclear charm. He says starfish are just fine, there's no alarm. His words dance on airwaves with a confident glow. Calm down, Charlie steals the whole radio show. With a snap and a grin, Charlie's voice so clear scatters the dread, dispels all the fear. Mux didn't hurt, he croons with a sigh. Science is for thinkers, not a whim or lie. Though Dana and the crowd may shout and roar, Charlie's unfazed, he's heard it all before. His swinging rationale, like a soothing song, says, hold on to logic, we gotta stay strong. Oh, calm down, Charlie, with his nuclear charm. He says starfish are just fine, there's no alarm. His words dance on airwaves with a confident glow. Calm down, Charlie steals the whole radio show.